with all the talk about how PC gaming is getting too expensive, in quotations there, how much do you really need to spend on a GPU to have a good experience? Do you really need to spend $1,000 to $2,000 plus on a GPU to feel validated and loved? If I buy a $500 GPU, will people kick dirt in my face? If I spend a measly $300 on a GPU, will my family abandon me with how little I've spent on it? Help, DF! Exclamation point, as Rich would say. Well, I mean, I have a lot to say here, but I would love to hear what you have to say, Tom.
Well, I suppose if you're gunning for a $500 GPU, you're kind of going towards the console budget as well. Was it $450, about that region? I'm just checking the prices now for, what, you've got the 4070 in pounds, right. I suppose. You've got £520 on Amazon right now. That's okay. That will last you out for a good while. There's a 7800 XT, about that 500 as well, which I suppose is about equivocal to dollars at this point, given the current exchange rates. So, I think you could get good mileage. I mean, 5 years till the end of the generation. And I suppose with the rise in sort of DLSS or machine learning technologies, that will extend it in theory if they become smarter about the way they work around. If you want to add ray tracing to the formula, as your Cyberpunks or in a future game, you're going to have a more effective way to hit that. So there's more than ever, I'd say, we're not looking at fixed points in terms of the hardware. There's a more dynamic range of possibilities going into the future, based more on the driver, which should be very interesting to see.
That's actually a good point. I would say things are getting much more expensive on the higher end side of things. The most expensive GPU you can buy now is a lot more expensive than the GPU. I mean, adjusted for inflation, obviously there's differences there, but I'd still say an RTX 5090 is more expensive than an 8800 Ultra in 2007. But back then people were buying SLIs of those things. Like, don't forget that too.
I remember.
SLI was pretty cool back then. But so I'd say the higher end is getting much more expensive, and the mid range is also what is considered the mid range in the full stack is also getting more expensive on a lot of ways. But there's a larger modability in graphics now than there was in the past, thanks to technologies that are multiplicative. I think DLSS is a pretty big game changer, where something like an RTX 2070 Super, for example, back in 2018 is now much more viable GPU now, thanks to something like DLSS. Whereas in years past, a $500 GPU in 6 to 7 years would be just like a useless hunk of junk. For the most part, like you couldn't use it in almost any title and get any sort of really great, reasonable, semi-high resolution experience. So I think that is a good multiplicative factor there. And also, I'll always contend that people do over-exaggerate the price of PC gaming in general, because PC gaming is not monolithic. It is not RTX 5090s only in 9800 X3Ds. It is also the new Intel cards, right? It is also APUs. It is also, a lot cheaper experiences there that still have a lot of value. And the legacy of PC gaming is such that you get access to tens of thousands of titles that will run still at 1080p 60 on extremely cheap hardware, right? So, and not every game's a AAA game, so you don't need that anyway. So I think the diversity in the PC experience is still one of its core strengths, and that is still surprisingly cheap, actually, if you really do want to get a cheaper machine. I don't know, Oliver?
Yeah, I mean, for me, from my own perspective, I would say that a GPU at about $500, $600 can give you a really good experience in AAA, especially if you're looking at something like a 4070 or a 5070, because those GPUs can push out advanced ray tracing, path tracing even, Sometimes at lower resolutions, you might need to notch down texture quality or two. It might not work in all games, but you can often get a lot of that PC feature set in that class of GPU at, say, 1440p with upscaling potentially. At $300, I just think you're getting something more compromised, more console level. And to me, the point of a desktop PC is really to exceed consoles by a good margin. Otherwise, personally, based on my own preferences for ease of navigation and use and simplicity, I'd rather just have a console. So at $500, that's the point at which PC software and hardware starts lighting up my brain a little bit with possibilities. But of course, I think you're in better hands still at $750, at $1,000, or at $1,600 or $2,000 with the 4090, 5090. 4090 and 5090 are still colossally impressive GPUs, and the 16 gigabyte GPUs that you'll see at about $1,000 or somewhat less there are really compelling. Again, in the NVIDIA side of the range, with Intel, it's more low-end stuff. With AMD, it does trend a little lower end, but you aren't necessarily always getting good performance in path tracing titles, or at least not nearly as good of performance as you would get with a comparably expensive NVIDIA GPU. And of course, you're not getting ray reconstruction, you're not getting a lot of the technologies that really make that work. So yeah, that's just my opinion, but I'm a bit of a console partisan in some respects. I do play a lot on PC nowadays. Surprisingly, I do play a lot on PC, especially recreationally, even though I'm mostly covering consoles for work. But for me personally, the point of a PC is either give me an experience I could never have on console in terms of portability, like a Steam Deck, or give me an experience I could never have on console in terms of raw power, like a 5090 PC, say. Yeah, and that's really what I'm 100% interested in.
Yeah, I mean, that's also the thing. We all just came up this question with like different answers based on our preferences. And I think that's also another thing that is just completely devoid usually on the discussion of talking about like, is this GPU the same as the PS5 Pro? Is that with PC, you have the ability to work your own niche interests into the platform and then get something out of it. So we all came out with this with different niche interests, and we came up with different answers to the exact same question.